Hey guys, welcome back to Beardman Comics. In this episode, I'll be drawing some poses and share with you some tips to get better at human anatomy. So let's begin. So why human anatomy, you may ask? Because this is the most important tool for an artist to know. A human body is comprised of so many shapes. For example, circles, squares, rectangles, even cylinders, in some cases triangles, and also some spheres if you look closely. So it becomes very essential skill to have. And as you also know, humans or people play such a vital role in storytelling. Learning human anatomy also makes you a confident drawer. With that confidence, you can draw people into your artworks and give way to some new stories in your drawings. So the tools for this session that I'm using is a sketchbook by Moleskine. It's a watercolor sketchbook with 300 GSM paper. I'll put a link in the description below. Also a micron pen and some watercolor which I'll be using in the later stage. So here are 5 tips for better human anatomy. Tip number 1, look for shapes. Whenever you look at the subject or the reference, you are greeted with so many information. So what you need to do is to filter out all those unnecessary information and focus on just the gesture. And how do you do that? You do that by looking at the shapes, just the bigger shapes. Like for the face, I'm not looking at the eyes, nose, mouth, anything. I'm just looking at the oval. One way to not to focus on the small details is by squinting your eyes. When you squint your eyes, the subject in front of you gets blurred in a way that you do not see the details and you just look at the shapes. But how to draw shapes? Comes tip number 2. Use only straight lines. Our brain can process simple information very quickly and efficiently. For instance, the features of a straight line is very easy to comprehend compared to a curve. I'm just talking about the length and the angle of the line. It is so difficult to guess the length of the circumference of a circle compared to the length of a straight line. So as you can see here, the hair of this pretty lady is somewhat of a circle, but I am approaching it with just straight lines. Here I am being very careful and conscious when it comes to the angle and the length of the line. But again you may ask that why is it important to guess the length and the angle of the line? Tip number 3. Focus on the length and the angle of the line. Now I'm not asking you to tell me the exact length of the line in centimeters. No. I'm just asking you to have an idea of how long or short the line be compared to line number 1, how tall or short is going to be line number 2. And I do not bring in centimeters or inches or whatever. I just do this in terms of times. How many times is line 1 compared to line 2? If line 2 is 2 times taller than line 1 or 1.5 times taller than line 1 or vice versa. And when it comes to the angle of the line, you need to be very careful. The line is not going to lay flat every time. The next line will have a certain angle compared to the first one. So you need to get to know what angle that is, not in numbers again, but if it's an acute angle, then how acute that angle is. Like for instance, this is an obtuse angle for sure. But is it close to 180 degrees or 90 degrees? I'm pretty sure it's close to 180. So I flatten the next line a little more. So this is how you may be able to approach most of your human figures. But when it comes to drawing the longer body parts like the thighs, the legs, the arms, the comparison becomes a little bit difficult. For instance, if you have drawn just a 1 centimeter line and you have realized that the next line, the preceding line, is about 4 or 5 times of that line. And what if it's actually 5 times and you have taken it as 4 times? This will definitely impact the human figure. So how do you avoid that? By asking for help, of course, from tip number 4, the negative space. This tip has been so important to me in the past 3 months. I mean, I have been looking for answers Like, what have I been doing wrong all this time while drawing the human figures? And the answer had been always out there. The negative space is a space that you do not see. It's everywhere, but you do not look at it. But when you look at it, you find some incredible shapes that you can implement in a drawing, and you can churn out some good body parts. And this is how the negative space provides you with second opinion. The first opinion is of course the line and the shapes, the angles and everything. But when it comes to the longer body parts, the negative space plays a vital role in terms of giving you more information that if your drawing is going in the right direction or not. Tip number 5, it's all in 3D. As soon as you start adding volume to your artworks, you become a better artist. Everything around you is in 3D, and if you can get the same thing down on your sketchbook, then nothing will stop you becoming a better artist. So how do you do that? By just adding some shadows, midtones and highlights, and I do that with this watercolor. You can also do this with shading, or you may do some cross hatching to get the values right, meaning that how dark is the shadow compared to the midtones and the highlights. If you want to add some characteristics to the face, some volume to the face, as you can see here in this beautiful model, I just put 4 of the dots of dark colors, and you can already see that there is some volume coming out of it. So there you go, 5 tips for better human anatomy. Let's summarize this once again. Tip number 1, look for shapes. Tip number 2, use straight lines to draw those shapes. Tip number 3, focus on the length and the angle of the lines while drawing them. Tip number 4, it's all about the negative space. And tip number 5, it's all in 3D. And if you can implement these tips to your regular sketching, I'm assuring you that you will find it very, very difficult to make a mistake with drawing. And what if you have made a mistake? Try embracing it for once, alright? It's not going to eat you. The only thing you will get from it is to learn. When you look at that mistake, you know that you are not going to do that again. On that note, I'll see you on the other side. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching.